Okay, so what things recently haven't worked that you were like, I thought this was a surefire bet, and then it did not succeed?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So the one thing that we found we tried, but it was not super successful, I would say is our seasonal strategy. It's basically we would come out every year with graphics that showcase the season, whether it was back to school, we would update graphics, we would update graphics for Halloween. It was cool. At this stage, kids are, like, especially our demographic, are looking for something much more magical. They're looking for something that they can carry around as a badge. And just to change the graphics is pretty much not enough. So, what we'll have to do is think about what else can we bring to life? How can we innovate, whether it's through flavor innovation during that seasonal time frame, whether or not we change the film to actually do something cool and interesting. One of the things that we recently did for a product that's more targeted to an older kid was that we made it rainbow thematic and it's metallic and it gives the packaging some life. So, what can we do to actually really surprise and delight our consumers during those seasonal time windows? We failed at just changing the artwork. Now we have to innovate to actually get consumers more interested in our product during those times.
I've heard a couple of times people talking about like, just making incremental improvements that maybe aren't really improvements at all versus making like the larger bets. So, I mean, that's a really good point that I've kind of heard as a theme throughout the episodes before. Earlier, you were mentioning, that there was a lot of innovations at GoGo squeeZ and no one was investing in these. What did that look like? How did you know that this is something good here and we actually need to just support it versus coming in and being like, this is a failure. Let's just be done with this. Like, how did you go about auditing that?
I really believe in learning from our failures because they'll help us get better in the future. So we basically took a step back and assessed the landscape. We said, what went wrong? And we started with, all right, let's look at the concept scores. And our concept scores showed that it was an extremely strong concept that had strong consumer appeal, purchase intent, all the typical levers that marketers look for to see if an initiative is going to be successful. Then it was, how do we launch the product? And that's where areas of opportunity start flowing. In our plan, we had that we're going to spend X amount of dollars, but we had to cut it down to Y. And oh, that Y was like a 90% cut. That's when we start feeling, okay, well, we didn't give it a chance. We know awareness is so critical, trial is so critical to initiative. That was most of our failure in launching these products, is that we didn't have a strong marketing plan. In our sales organization, extremely remarkable at allowing us to list these items, and they had strong merchandising plans behind them, but we just didn't have the awareness drivers. I also believe that you have to have a strong shopper plan. So leveraging some of the retail media groups, thinking through your promotional strategy, that was something that we built, but we didn't activate against. That was something that we gathered, we learned, and now we're taking a different approach moving forward.
So, what's an example of one of the products? I want to look them up and see.
Yeah, absolutely. One right now that we are evaluating is our GoGo squeeZ almond pudding. It is a complete hit with our consumer, and we get complaints all the time because people really can't find it because
I've never seen this before and it looks delightful. Chocolate? Like, come on now.
chocolate
Where's this
pudding,
at?
right? And it's
Yeah.
healthier than most puddings out there in the market because we definitely have less sugar than those products. It's based off of almond. Almond is our base for this product versus dairy, and it had high appeal. But as we start peeling back the onion in regards to what went wrong or what is going wrong with this initiative, it's all about ensuring that we're targeting the right consumer. So almond-based products have an appeal to a certain demographic. So are we reaching that demographic versus going to the masses? So that's step one. And step two, once we identify that target and we put plans towards them, is the messaging appealing to? So how are we executing dynamic creative optimization of the messaging? and seeing what message will resonate with that consumer or shopper. What's going to really drive that conversion? That's a tool that we now have in our toolbox that we'll continue to work on with other future initiatives. And then finally, once consumers say that they love it, what mechanics are we giving them to become advocates of that product? It's just crazy at how many consumers love our brand, but we haven't really given them the avenue to speak up and tell others about it. So we have to close that loop of making sure that we're creating advocates for our brand and our products that we're launching so that they can spread the word.
I love that. This is super interesting. So I'm sure there are a lot of companies out there, maybe some that you've worked at, that are like, there's this product. I'm pretty sure it could work. We just need to know how to actually build a full plan around it. What stage do you think you're at right now? How far into this journey are you with something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are probably at the stage of really learning what channels work for our new initiatives, especially as we think about the funnel. What channels should we be supporting from a awareness standpoint versus consideration versus conversion versus advocacy and loyalty? We're on a journey with our media team to figure out what works. We now have to start partnering with some data scientists to start thinking about how do we test certain tactics, certain channels to see if we have that feel? Most people just think, oh, digital works, but there's so many other ways of connecting with our consumer. A consumer who has a very complex journey now. Like I've never seen, I mean, back in the day, it was like you plan your list, you go to store, you consume the product. But now it's just an explosion of different avenues that you can reach your consumer, and they're consuming so much content right now that you now have to stand out amongst everyone else and everything else. So we're right now on that journey of discovery, discovering what channels that we can best leverage to communicate our brand.
So earlier you mentioned retail media, which is something that has more recently come up on the show quite a few times around people saying, there's a huge opportunity here if you know how to lean into it and leverage it the right way. How are you all planning for this, if at all?
And it's the orchestration of retail media with national media because they can be leveraged interchangeably. I can give you one quick example with Kroger. Kroger has an amazing capability through KPM where you can leverage their platform of Roku, and Roku being something that you can leverage nationally to drive awareness of your brand while overlaying some of the amazing data from Kroger 8451 to be able to target your specific audience. That's just remarkable. You're not going to get that close to the consumer and that type of data with any other partner. So now you have to figure out the mix. What percentage of shopper media that you want to spend versus national media? That is, I think, the challenge that every single CPG company has out there. Because back in the day, there was an equation. You spend 20% on shopper, 80% on national, and you'll be fine. But now that balance is getting close to 50-50, as most retail media groups have such an amazing set of data that you have to figure out whether or not you lean in on that versus building the data on your own, which is extremely expensive, time intensive, and you need a huge group to actually be able to do so. So right now we're on that journey of discovering how do we find that balance between those two entities.
Interesting. Is there anyone else that you are exploring with that you're seeing good results from? I mean, I know a lot of people have talked about Walmart, of course. Who else are you kind of exploring with when it comes to retail
Oh,
media?
absolutely. Amazon, they have a great data set. They were actually helpful in, thinking through basket analysis to understand this pudding shopper, this almond pudding shopper, and figuring out how to find that shopper. We are partnering with Walmart and their data. HEB has built a really solid foundation within their media group. And we're also, leveraging other folks like Instacart. We're looking at them to actually provide us with even more insights on how to reach our consumer and shopper. There's other tools, not necessarily retail media groups, but other tools and capabilities out there like Profitero that I think most people use them for analyzing e-commerce data, but it's so much more than that. They have so much rich insights that you can gather that can actually help you with innovation idea to how can you think through segmentation or what are some of the barriers to purchase. I feel as though we're stretching ourselves to a lot of different platforms, but we're learning along the way and we're trying to figure it all out as a team.
Hey, thanks for watching. This segment was made possible by our friends at Salesforce Commerce Cloud. If you're looking for the #1 platform for all your commerce needs, go check out salesforce.com/commerce. And don't forget to subscribe below and tap that little bell icon so you can stay on top of all the amazing new segments and full episodes that we'll be putting out over the coming year with some of the best and most influential commerce leaders out there.